Went to a friend's funeral the other day. He used to be a surfer. We all got soaked in the wake. Banks should do a better job of refilling their ATM machines. This is the 5th one I've been to that says insufficient funds. How do fighter pilots like their eggs? Scrambled. Where can you find a whole range of animals? Zoos. Why did Gandalf call out of work? He had staff. Why can't we ever trust an egg with a secret? They always crack under pressure. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the song Delilah out of my head. I went to see a psychologist. He told me I had Tom Jones syndrome. I told him I'd never heard of that before. He said it's not unusual. A pot of orcas are robbing ships at sea. This organized crime must be dealt with. I found my wife on a dating site. Kinda sad considering we've been married 27 years. What kind of computers have a music career? Adele. What does a Canis lupus get when their running shoes don't fit properly? Wolf blister. My doctor said I have no chance of ever jumping again. I'm completely hopless. If you sneeze and fart at the same time, you must be cold-blooded. What do you call 50 Cent who doesn't shower? Filthy Cent. Did you hear Madonna's new single about an atheist dog? It's called Pupper Don't Preach. I've started telling everyone about the benefits of eating dry grapes. It's all about raising awareness. What do you call a Chinese guy with a camera? Filming. What does Buddha say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything. I just learned that King Arthur would write a letter to Sir Lancelot, who would send it in turn to each of the knights of the Round Table. Apparently, they really liked chain mail. What's the secret of having a smoking hot body as senior? Cremation. Did you know that cows kill more people than sharks? I'm surprised that cows kill any sharks at all. One day I'm going to start collecting highlighters. Mark my words. I never know if it's cool to talk about hair dye with other guys at the office. It's sort of a gray area. Which birthday only lasts for 1 minute? Your 62nd birthday. Get ready for more laughs and groans following this short break. A man went in a funeral home and asked the vicar for the Wi-Fi code. The vicar snapped, "Have some respect for your dead mother." The man replied, "Is that all lowercase?" They found most of my stolen board game collection, but I can't compensate them for their efforts. No risk, no reward. I'll always remember my father's last words before he kicked the bucket. Do you want to see how far I can kick this bucket? What do you call a Green Day fan from the US? An American idiot. Why did the Scarecrow get an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. I invented a device that translates exams into Braille for blind students. It raises a lot of questions. The pastilles I ate last night were a little too sharp for me. Must have been the spearmint. My wife told me I should do lunges to stay in shape. That would be a big step forward. Did you hear about the constipated accountant? He worked it out with a pencil. My wife gave birth on our stairs. Now I have a stepson. My wife has been reading a lot of gothic romance horrors recently, so I asked her, why does Dracula always bite people in the neck? She told me it's because he's a necromancer. What's a brigadier general's favorite band? The Bee Gees. Why do Dasher and Dancer love her coffee? Because their scent is Starbucks. Why shouldn't you fart in an Apple store? They don't have windows. Why won't you starve in the desert? 'Cause the sandwich is there. A strange owl saw a witch fly by on a broomstick and grabbed her. Weird Owl yanked a witch. My sister thinks she is so smart. She says onions are the only food that can make you cry. So I threw a coconut at her. I just got hired at a window making factory. I'd tell you more, but it's classified. The invention of the shovel was groundbreaking. But it was the invention of the broom that truly swept the nation. I really miss my late grandfather at our family dinners. That old geezer never shows up on time and I'm starving. What do you say to a one-legged hitchhiker? Hop in. Paris was overrun by a gang of criminal anarchists who all dressed as mimes. They did unspeakable things. The only job I could get was at a 24-hour call center. It ruined my dreams. Why do scuba divers fall backward into the water? Because if they fell forward, they would fall right into the boat. Why did the deer go to the dentist? Because he had a buck tooth. I drew Mark Hamill on my wife's forehead while she was asleep. You should have seen the look on her face. My dentist removed the wrong tooth. It was accidental. What happens when a microscope crashes into a telescope? They kaleidoscope. Tonight we are having Himalayan rabbit stew for dinner. We found Himalayan in the road. It's easy to quit alcohol. I've done it 31 times the past month. After just 1 week, my boss at the yogurt factory said I'm probably not a good fit. Apparently, they don't want new hires blending into the company's culture. We made apple cider this week, and it tasted amazing. So I told my family, next time we should try making Android cider and see how it compares. What do you call a noodle terrorist? Osama bin Laden. I carefully described to my daughter the difference between transparent and translucent. She replied, "Thanks for the clear explanation." Why do more crows die from trucks than cars? Because crows can say caw, caw, but they can't say truck. New app to find a perfect keyboard. Similar to dating apps, it helps you find the right type. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't work? A stick. My girlfriend was looking at buying a pear tree and said they can grow 18 to 20 feet. I said I'd prefer if it grew pears. I bought 50 chicks from the local farmer. They were all going cheap. Did you hear that the Pillsbury Doughboy was injured playing basketball? He rolled an ankle. What do you call a rabbit with fleas? Bugs Bunny. The longest drum solo in history was 6 hours 28 minutes. Performed by a child sitting behind me on the flight to Toronto. As a dad, I usually don't mind finding a gray pubic hair once in a while. But not in my Big Mac. What is heavier? A gallon of water or a gallon of butane? A gallon of water, because butane is a lighter fluid. Why was Spider-Man's car covered in cobwebs? Because Peter parked it. A Roman sprinter had 3 children, Seth, Anya, and Mark. One day, there was a house fire. The Roman sprinter told his children Anya, "Mark, get Seth and go." A new version of Microsoft Office leaked online. Microsoft had to cancel their plans after word got out. Which band used to drive a truck for Quaker? Hall & Oates. Dad, why have we never eaten at a Native American restaurant? Because it's hard to get a reservation, son. Why should you never buy illegally harvested honey from an undercover officer? Because it could be a sting operation. Local authorities are investigating the theft of every toilet from the police station yesterday. It's proving to be a hard case to crack, since the cops don't have anything to go on. I left my window open and the woman next door grabbed one of my classic rock and roll albums. She leaned in and stole a kiss. When traveling to Germany, you should be prepared and always have some jokes with you. It's important to have your wits about you. I had a vasectomy because I didn't want any kids. When I got home, they were still there. You have to expect some pain after an injury. Like the Bible pretty much says, as you're sore, so shall ye weep. I asked my wife if she could say worth. She's like, why? I said, trust me, it's worth repeating. What do you call a bird with diarrhea? A stool pigeon. My spouse asked me if I thought our kids were spoiled. I said I think all kids smell like that. What do you call a fish who is an abstract artist? Jackson Pollock. What do you call a bunch of soaps taking a show? A soap opera. What's always a favorite Christmas treat at the morgue? Ginger dead men. Why don't drug dealers ever get lost? Because they always follow the highway. According to Kid Rock, humans can understand up to 25 letters of the alphabet. Only God knows why. My friends keep telling me about how he can print a gun with his 3D printer. I'm not impressed. I've had a Canon printer for years. Why did the man decide to buy 9 rackets? Because 10 is too many. I had a bet with my friend on whose cow could smoke the most weed before passing out. The stakes have never been so high. Why did the computer get glasses? To improve its website. Amal and Juan are identical twins, and their mother carried only one photo in her wallet. If you've seen Juan, you've seen Amal. I'd never let my children watch the orchestra. There's too much sax and violins. Why do snails drive fast cars with the letter S on the side? So people will say, look at that S car go. Someone broke into my house and stole all my coffee cups. I'm going to the police station to look at mugshots. How many hipsters does it take to change a light bulb? It's a really obscure number, you won't have heard of it. What is an English teacher's favorite cereal? Synonym Toast Crunch. I stayed up all night wondering where the sun went. Finally, it dawned on me. My kids asked me why I was throwing out my old Nirvana and Pearl Jam records. I explained that I don't like to hold on to a grunge. What would Nurse Left Eye say at the end of a long, hard day at work? I don't want to know scrubs. My wife caught me waving at the neighbor again. In my defense, she waved first. With a leaf blower. On turbo. Even though it's a lucrative profession, don't force your child to become a chopper pilot. You don't want to be a helicopter parent. How did the hacker escape? I don't know, he just ransomware. What TV channel is worth only 5 cents? Nickelodeon. What mouthwash brand causes severe burns when it touches your skin? Buzstringer. What's the most important subject a witch learns in school? Spelling. I took my driver's test and scored 8 out of 10. The other 2 jumped out of the way. A shout out to my fingers. I can always count on them. Did you hear about the fledgling bird they used to give to trainees to use instead of a canary to test for gas leaks in a coal mine? It was a miner's minor. What kind of underwear do trees wear? Trunks. What do you call a poet that shakes beverages? William Shakespeare. Sold my old Dodge to some guy named Arthur. Now he has my Excalibur. What did 2 tell 3 when he saw 6 acting like an idiot? Don't mind him. He is just a product of our times. Did you hear the joke about the dull knife? It was pointless. People are making apocalypse jokes. Like there's no tomorrow. Who set the date when communism was invented? Karl Marx the Spot. I can't believe that I've fallen into a river in Egypt. I'm in denial. Why don't you ever want to argue with bamboo? Because it sticks, shoots, and leaves. I've just been sacked from work for taking a dump on the clock. In hindsight, I probably should have used the toilet. Is butt cheeks one word? Or should I spread them apart? My wife didn't want to watch Bob Ross with me. She said it's like watching paint dry. What do you call an unidentified gingerbread man? John Doe. What do you call a runaway dog exploring the edge of a high cliff? Unleashed potential. Have you heard the one about the snail with the race car? He painted an S on the hood and everyone would say, "Look at that S-car go." Get ready for more laughs and groans following this short break. Did you hear about the 2 tennis players that fell in love? It was a courtship. I tried to sneak into a Star Trek convention disguised as a doctor. The security guard suspected I was not the real McCoy. Did you steal my antidepressant again? Hope you're happy now. Why do the Smurfs hate living in fungus? There's not mushroom. My partner has a lot in common with pie. Both are irrational. I got my pet snail a little vehicle, painted the letter S on the roof, and entered him into the Snail Grand Prix. He went so fast, people were saying, "Look at that S-car go." Black Bart was arrested wearing a paper suit. He was charged with rustling. A cook recently took all of his customers to court. He wanted to be a sous chef. I'd like to tell you all a story about the time that I was driving through Yellowstone National Park and a grizzly climbed into my car. Bear with me. I grilled a chicken for 2 hours today. It still wouldn't tell me why it crossed the road. My mom's sister got mad at me when I critiqued her baking skills. She was a croissant. It was recently discovered that pandas that give birth to exactly 4 cubs have the ability to time travel, because their offspring are their own forebears. What's the difference between a man wearing pajamas on a bicycle and a guy wearing a tuxedo on a unicycle? Attire. My printer's name is Bob Marley, because it's always jamming. Doctor charged me $20 for getting ketchup in my eyes. Hindsight is $20.20. Did you hear about the new restaurant that opened up on the moon? Although the food was great, the atmosphere was missing. What is the loneliest capital? Seoul. What kind of impression did Salvador Dali receive from the public? He got a couple of raised mustaches. What is Mike Tyson's favorite band? Kith. What has 2 butts and kills people? An assassin. My wife is suffering from an iron deficiency. So yeah, that's why my shirt is so wrinkled. I asked my wife what she wanted for her birthday. She said, nothing would make me happier than a diamond necklace. So I bought her nothing. Revo, the company that tried to make a hubless bike, failed miserably. I guess that's what happens when you fire your spokesperson. I telephoned a restaurant and asked if I could have a reservation for 2. The guy on the other end said I had the wrong number. So, I asked him if I could make it for 4 instead. I always encourage my Jewish friends to stock up on their pot at this time. I want to make sure they're prepared for the high holidays. The prosthetic store was way pricier than I thought it'd be. They charged me an arm and a leg. Accidentally keyed my grandfather's antique Oldsmobile. He said not worry because it was a Cutlass. Whenever my car hits a pothole, it sends a jolt through my back. I don't know if it's shocks or struts. The suspension is killing me. What do you call glass bakeware in Jamaica? Pyrex of the Caribbean. The waitress came to our table and asked if anyone had the poached eggs. I said, what nerve? We all paid for our eggs, thank you very much. The last several dates that I have been on, the girl keeps bringing pencils. I'm guessing she simply wants to draw attention. What did the defense secretary reply when more reporters wanted to be added to his Signal chat room? New phone. Houthis. What car manufacturer is the most crooked? Bentley. My wife complained that, year after year, I'm looking more and more like an ogre. I reminded her that some women wouldn't be able to resist my Shrek's appeal. Why do vampires avoid high-level corporate jobs? They're afraid of stakeholders. If a cow fails to produce milk, is it a milk dud or an utter failure? What is a misandrist's favorite fruit? Mango. Which state has the most attentive computers? Delaware. If you ever get locked out of your house, talk to your lock calmly. Communication is the key. I'm writing a history of Death Star construction. It's called A Series of Unfortunate Events. The head of Tibetan Buddhism has launched a new podcast and will release a new episode every 24 hours. It's called The Daily Lama. How do Australians clean themselves down under? Bidet mate. Why do bees stay in their hives all winter? Swarm. "50 Cent started rapping in 1996. With inflation, he's now $1.02. It's a 5-minute walk from my house to the pub, and it's a 45-minute walk from the pub to my house. The difference is staggering. I'm addicted to Thanksgiving leftovers. I just can't quit cold turkey. Two priests, then a rabbi walk into a bar. One would think the rabbi would have ducked. Why should you never iron your 4-leaf clover? Because you shouldn't press your luck. I was going to tell the joke about the tropical birds I glued together. But never mind, it's too confusing. What do you call a person who can't stop bragging about how many different languages they can speak? A polyglot. A radiator shop is a great place to take a leak. For my sister's baby shower, I gave her a jar of pacifiers inside a second jar. It was her Jar Jar Binkies. What do you call a Jewish woman returning a loaf of bread? A hollaback girl. I think I'm allergic to bacon. Every time I eat some, I come out in rashers. You should avoid talking to pie at a party. They just go on and on forever. My wife and kids were very forthcoming when I said I'd like a family holiday. I'm glad they understand how much I need a break from them. It's so cold outside. My plumber pulled his pants up. I should have thought twice about buying a car that doesn't reverse. Guess there's no going back now. When birds are in flying V formation, there's usually one side longer than the other. Know why? There's more birds on that side. Bacon and eggs walk into a bar. Bartender says, "Get out of here. We don't serve breakfast." Why did baseball player get fired? Because he ran 3 bases then walked home. Imagine if Americans switched from pounds to kilograms overnight. There would be mass confusion. I started a band called 1023 Megabytes. We haven't had a gig yet. Why do they call liquor spirits? Because it's booze. I know a drummer whose wife just had quadruplets, all girls. He wanted to name them Anna 1, Anna 2, Anna 3, Anna 4. My girlfriend dumped me while going up in an elevator. It hurt me on many levels. I told my daughter, "Go to bed, the cows are sleeping in the field." She said, "What's that got to do with anything?" I said, "That means it's past your bedtime." I used to tell a great joke about Sisyphus, but I could never get to the end. I won't stop at a gas station that has a clean restroom sign. If they can't clean their own restrooms, I'm not doing it for them. One day I decided to link all of my wristwatches together to make a belt. It was a complete waste of time. Yesterday I was stood with Dwayne Johnson on my left and a frozen fish on my right. I was between a rock and a hard place. What's a duck's favorite drug? Quack. How does Spock get a laugh from Captain Kirk? He sets his phaser to pun. Back when I was a prison warden, this new inmate threatened he was going to take a huge dump on my Rolex when I wasn't paying attention. I said, "Buddy, there's no way that's happening. Not on my watch." Asked my English teacher why the novel War and Peace is so thick. It's a long story. My wife decided to sleep in the spare bedroom because she's sick and tired of my bedtime Elvis impersonations. I knocked on her door at 3 a.m. and said, "Are you lonesome tonight?" I just read a very long article on Japanese sword fighting. Let me summarize it for you. Who is Santa's favorite musician? Elvis Presley. I used to play the triangle in a reggae band, but I had to leave. It was just one thing after another. What do you call an ancient building where they made perfume? The olfactory. I just burnt 2,500 calories in 20 minutes. I forgot to take the brownies out of the oven. What do you call a cow that can't produce milk? A milk dud. I lost my job at Pepsi last week after working there for years. I tested positive for Coke. Did you know the Grinch is the most average who in Whoville? He's a mean one, that Mr. Grinch. An employee caught me picking up the dumbbells at a sporting goods store to see how heavy they were. I got kicked out for shoplifting. I couldn't quite figure out why the frisbee seemed to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it hit me. What do you call a wreath made of $100 bills? Aretha Franklin's. I recently took a poll and found out 100% of the occupants were angry with me when their tent collapsed. A gingerbread man went to the doctors complaining of a sore knee. The doctor asked him, "Have you tried icing it?" If we remove all of the margarine on Earth, the world will be a butter place. When my wife and I divorced, the judge made us split everything evenly, including our pudding shop. We now have shared custody. What do you call a dog that loves mustard? A golden retriever. What do you call a farmer who likes flirting? A tractor. When my son returned from school, I asked him what did he learn. His answer was not enough. I need to go back tomorrow. What's yellow and smells like bananas? Monkey vomit. Why has the toilet paper technology stalled? Nobody wants any breakthroughs in that department. How many times has Dracula wandered off by himself? I've lost count. What did the other scientists at the lab say to Marie Curie? Every day you look more radiant. Why does the fat man not like having running water in his house? Because he's tired of chasing it around. I went to a mixed religious service today. A Catholic priest held my hand and said, "By the will of Jesus, you will walk today." I told him I'm not paralyzed. A rabbi held my hand and said, "By the will of God, you will walk today." I told him I'm not paralyzed. After the service, I went outside and saw my car was stolen. Finland has just closed their borders. Now no one will be crossing the finish line. The world's worst limbo player walks into a bar. I have enough money to last me the rest of my life, unless I want to buy something. You know, the Sorcerer Supreme doesn't know everything. Sometimes he's right, or he's wrong. My girlfriend said she's depressed because of me. I told her, that can't be true. People all over the world are depressed, and they don't even know me. I am just not clicking with this ornithology college. The professors are flighty, the tenured dean is a lame duck, and the student body all flocks to the newest trends. Frankly, this school is for the birds. What is the difference between a cow and Star Wars? You can't milk a cow for 48 years. I was reading studies on different professions this morning. One of the studies had data that showed lumberjacks spent more time taking bathroom breaks than any other profession. They must be dropping logs. I have been with countless women. Seriously, how do you count to 0? Did you know? Rick Astley will let you borrow any movie from his Pixar collection except one. He's never going to give you up. Huey Lewis goes solo for the first 10 tracks of his new album. News at 11. My midget friend became a father recently and seemed down. I asked what was up and he told me he was struggling with putting food on the table. The secret agent named James got himself all wet while strolling in the park. His name? James Pond. My wife is on a tropical fruit diet. There's all this stuff everywhere. It's enough to make a man go crazy. What's another name for an iPhone power cord? Apple juice. Once 3 band members of The Doors have died. Are they going to start touring under the name 3 Doors Down? My dad got fired from his job as a road worker for theft. I refused to believe he could do such a thing. But when I got home, the signs were all there. How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. I just got over my addiction to chocolate, marshmallows, and nuts. I won't lie, it was a rocky road. What did Doomsday tell Superman right before killing him? I'm putting you in the crypt tonight. How does an electrician punishes their kid when they misbehave? He grounds them. There aren't very many singers in the world, but they sure have a lot of influence. They're a vocal minority. Enough with the jokes here about our aging parents. They're getting old. You're in Louisiana, and you're lost trying to row your canoe down twisty bug-infested waterways. And now your phone just died. It sucks to buy you. My daughter asked me who my favorite vampire is. I said the one from Sesame Street. She said he doesn't count. I said that I'm pretty sure he does. Get ready for more laughs and groans following this short break. Did you hear about the film Constipated? It never came out. Ayatollah so. It ran away. Who's the guy who makes pasta in Italy? Carl Bonera. The bartender says, "We don't serve time travelers here." 2 minutes later, the time traveler walks into the bar. I can't believe how expensive our stone countertop was. I feel like we've been taken for granted. Three conspiracy theorists walk into a bar. You can't tell me that's a coincidence. In the context of hunting, tones primarily refers to the sounds produced by hunting horns. There are many tones available in the market to hunt down animals. But the best one is sold by one. Because you can kill 2 birds with one's tone. Singing in the shower is great until you get shampoo in your mouth. Then it's just a soap opera. Diarrhea awareness starts today. Runs all week. Dad, why did you buy a boat? There was a sale. Two years ago, my doctor told me I was going deaf. I haven't heard from him since. Do you know why night cream tend to be more expensive than day cream? Because it counts as overtime. When I was a child, I used to enjoy making sandcastles with my grandfather. Until my mother made me put the urn back on the mantle. When I was young, I was very poor. But after many years of hard work and dedication, I am no longer young. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl when he goes to the toilet? Because the P is silent. What did the hyenas from The Lion King say when their car horn got fixed? Be prepared. A priest and a rabbi walk into a gym. The rabbi asks, "Why did you want us to come here?" The priest answers, "We need to exorcise our demons." Why was the equal sign so humble? Because it knew it wasn't less than or greater than anyone else. Why were dinosaurs so big? Jurassic times called for Jurassic measures. Could that joke get any worse? You bet Jurassic can. What is the best move to learn in a karate class in Hawaii? Hawaiian punch. Why do whales look for swim areas that have public showers? I just finished a documentary about South American frogs. It was riveting. Why did the teacher wear sunglasses to class? Because her students were so bright. What steals from you when you're in your bathtub? A rubber ducky. My son was questioning me on why polar bears are only at the North Pole, not the South Pole. I replied, well, if they go both ways, then they're bipolar bears. Parallel lines have so much in common. It's a shame they'll never meet. What size shirt do psychics wear? A medium. My statistics professor called me an average student. I thought that was a bit mean. I had to break up with my girlfriend. There were just too many red flags. I mean, who communicates by semaphore? Just send a text. Never trust atoms. They made up everything. I swung my axe and hit my car instead of wood. It was an accident. Every morning I announce to my family that I'm going running, but then I don't go. It's a running joke. Which Avenger is the most trustworthy? The Credible Hulk. Have you ever lost cigarettes? I did in a series of small fires. Why do snakes rely on ambush attacks? Because chasing prey would make their skin crawl. If you get the opportunity to become a Gregorian monk, take the chance seriously. Did you know a bowling alley is the quietest place in the world? You can hear a pin drop. Do you hear about the nun who used too much starch in her garments? Yeah, I hear she finally broke the habit. I want to learn how to sew. It's not as easy as it seems. A man walks up to a beautiful bartender and says, "Do you know how much a polar bear weighs?" The bartender shakes her head no while pushing aside a pile of squid, grapes, and icebreakers. The man says, "Enough to break the ice." My 16-year-old son wanted to know what it was like to be a parent. So I woke him at 2 a.m. to tell him my sock had come off. I'm going to open an equine strength training track in Scandinavia. It'll be my Norse horse force course. I made some gumbo out of nothing but sausage and okra. It wasn't good and it wasn't bad. It was just mediocre. Why don't skeletons fight each other? Because they don't have the guts. What did the retrowave DJ tell the priest? "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." Why do airline pilots never work a day of their life? As soon as they arrive at work, they just take off. I've started doing lunges to get in shape. It's a big step forward for me. What is a Christian's favorite font? Baptismal. What do the movies Titanic and The Sixth Sense have in common? I see dead people. I don't want to brag about my looks, but when I take my clothes off in the bathroom, the shower gets turned on. Did you hear about the keyboard factory owner that broke into his own shop? He had lost his keys to the caps lock. Why does drinking make other people look more attractive? Because you know what they say, beauty is in the eye of the beer holder. Earthquake detectors are always finding faults. What do you call the toilet of a king? A royal flush. The hallucinatory Dieter thought he was eating a delicious mint candy with fig. But it was just a figment of his imagination. The police asked me, "Why didn't you report your stolen credit card?" I replied, "The thief was spending less than my wife." What do you call a cafeteria located at the backside of a building? Bacteria. Why do crabs never volunteer? Because they are shellfish. I can't believe people say that spirits aren't real. You can go into any liquor store and find tons. My wife and I were happy for 29 years. Then we met. There was a weird guy in school who was obsessed with archaeology. He even took his mummy to prom. What is the stickiest bird? Velcro. My granddad sold abacuses for a living during the 60s. He was part of the counterculture. Where do the old Volkswagen cars when they retire? The old Volks home. Bees are so stupid. They're bumbling idiots. When a kid burned down his house, his father watched, put an arm around his wife, and said, "That's arson." Why does the person who runs Times Square feel like a failure? They always drop the ball. Trust me when I tell you that these fried insect legs really are the bee's knees. I have a mathematics joke I want to tell y'all, but I'm too scared to say it. I bought some shoes from a drug dealer. I don't know what he laced them with, but I've been tripping all day. I killed 8 zombies, 9 vampires, and 3 witches yesterday. But for some reason, they kept dropping candy. How do you make a tissue dance? Put a little boogie in it. I was reminiscing about my time as a chef in Amsterdam, serving up eggs Benedict every morning. Those were the Holland days. I heard that some Argentinian players are joining up with Major League Soccer. It's creating a bit of a messy situation. Did you hear about the bodybuilder that ran out of protein powder? No way. I hate when people use double negatives. That's a big no-no. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Great quote. Bad way to find out you're adopted. What do you call pineapple upside down cake in Australia? Pineapple right side up cake. What do British sea monsters eat? Fish and chips. When I do the limbo, I set the bar really high. Does that mean I'm really good or really bad? Please don't go to an all-you-can-eat shrimp buffet if you have a shellfish allergy. You could krill yourself. They missed an opportunity when they invented the mammogram machine by not calling it a booby trap. Everyone, I need some advice on managing my emotions surrounding my late father. What can I do to get him to show up on time once in a while? If you order a chicken and an egg online, please let me know what comes first. I thought it'd be fun to have a functional scale on my stomach, but it's really weighing on me. How'd we know the cup of coffee was angry? Mean mugging. How many Kansas City Chiefs does it take to change a flat tire? Just one. Unless it's a blowout, then they all show up. Why can't origami players win anything at poker? Because they always fold. We're 30 minutes away from landing in Doha. We won't have to Kuwait much longer. Why was the Tooth Fairy arrested? For insider trading. Apparently Hank Hill is a masochist. He is propane. Give me the honest truth. Will you join me for some kosher hot dogs tonight? Please be frank with me. What did the triangle say to the circle? You are pointless. Little Red Riding Hood found in critical condition. Paramedics have stabilized her condition, but she's not out of the woods yet. It's a 5-minute walk from my house to the pub. It's a 35-minute walk from the pub to my house. The difference is staggering. Where did they have to station the soldier who was proud of his flatulence? Fart brag. A raisin, a peanut, and an oat sit down and order a drink. Bartender says, "What do you think this is? A granola bar?" Please visit my GoFundMe page to help those dried grapes who are in need. It's about raising awareness. There's a guy who can cut wood with just a look. He taught me the technique. It's true, I saw it with my own eyes. Why is Yoda such a good gardener? Because he has 2 green thumbs. A truck full of Vicks Vapor Rub crashed in the middle of the highway during rush hour. Amazingly, no congestion at all. My friend just told me that a kick-down door has no purpose in life. What a totally unhinged thing to say. A termite walks into a bar. Then he asks, "Is the bartender here?" I had trouble breathing, so I called my doctor. "First of all," he said, "stop running. I can't understand a word you are saying." A girl canceled her appointment online and it didn't work. Let's just say she wasn't disappointed. I went to walk today because I had nothing on. I got arrested for indecent exposure. My grandfather drowned in an open sewer. His remains were immediately interred. What did the grape said when an Italian stepped over it? Nothing, it just gave a little wine. My kids call me unoriginal when I yell I got it. Upon tracking down spherical objects they throw at me. But I can't help it. It's my catchphrase. I was sure I had to poop. Sat down, waited. Nothing, just a fart alarm. What is a Toy Space Ranger's favorite alcoholic beverage? Bud Light beer. Where do rappers 5 feet 5 inches and under use the bathroom? The Lil Jon. How do I contact a dead window cleaner? Squeegee board. What do you get when a parrot and centipede cross each other? Walkie-talkie. At the bar, this beautiful lady got annoyed when I walked up to her and said Ford, F-Series. Apparently, my friend's advice of giving the lady my best pickup line didn't work. My neighbor Janet tried to annoy me with bird puns. But two can play that game. Scientists presented a box that would prevent chickens from eating seeds. Experts say that the solution is impeccable. My friends and I went to a restaurant and one friend wanted to order a North American dish, but all they had was fries with cheese curds and gravy. He was so disappointed, he sat there poutine all lunch. Did you hear about the new video game with all the undead artistic painters? They're calling it Resident Evil. I got fired from the keyboard factory. They told me I wasn't putting in enough shifts. What does the disappointed woman tree say to the guy tree? I'm leaving you. I got caught riding an elephant on the highway. Now I'm being charged with drunk driving. Why can't you hear a psychiatrist using the bathroom? Because the P is silent. I walked into a lounge at Wimbledon to buy a drink and there was a tennis ball on the bar. I guess it was waiting to be served. I had a stock of perfumes which I planned to sell for $100 per bottle, but since people weren't buying it, I had to sell them for half the price. I made only 50%. Why did the gambler go to the Asian casino? He wanted to bet. A woman went to her doctor's office with a frog on her forehead. The doctor asked, "Goodness, what happened to you?" The frog replied, "I don't know, but it started out as a pimple on my bum." If you think gas and electric prices are high, you should see the chimneys. They're through the roof. I told my plants I was going on vacation. Now they're feeling leaved out. I watched a surprisingly exciting movie about squirrels preparing for the winter. The story was just nuts. I have just found out that Russian Empire was ruled by an insect. It was bizarre. A small rowboat was dating a yacht, but they broke up. He said she was a little dingy. Why do dumb people always say yes? They don't know anything. I went to buy some camouflage pants, but I couldn't find any. What do you call a Spanish streaker? Senor Willie. If you have 7 pairs in one hand and 10 in the other, what do you have? Giant hands. A wealthy man tells another guy, "I'll give you $50,000, but your worst enemy gets double that." The guy smiles and says, "Cool. I've always wanted $150,000. Hey doctor, okay if I administer my own anesthesia? Sure. Knock yourself out. What do you call a network of shy people? A nervous system. How many patients does a colorectal surgeon see in a day? A butt-ton. I hear my snoring really scares people, especially while I'm driving. I recently dropped 15 pounds. Now my friend won't let me hold his baby. How do you carve wood? Whittle by whittle. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because it has no concept of urban environment. Why did the wizard go to the hospital? He had staph infection. During my physical exam, my doctor wanted to check my eyesight, so he had me read the numbers on the chart on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 I read. When I asked for my diagnosis, he told me that I lacked foresight. I went to a wedding last night and cut in front of a bunch of people who were waiting in line for sangria. Darn it, I ruined the punchline. Proctologists make the best persistence hunters. They always get you in the end. When I used to work in construction, I was hired to remodel a graveyard. The owner asked me to bid it like a maze. Turns out they wanted people to find dead ends. My kids kept leaving stuff on our kitchen island. So I started putting their phones, books, jackets, whatever they left there in a box and charging them chores or small amount of their allowance to get them back. My wife said I was charging too much. I replied, it's basic economics. Things are generally more expensive on islands. I am now a deserted island. Get ready for more laughs and groans following this short break. What do Polish parrots say? Polly want a Krakow. My dog just got home after his first day of work as a guard dog. I asked him how it went. Rough is all he said. I told my son I'd make him a belt out of watches. He asked, why? I said, because it's about time. Someone asked me the other day if I'd heard of Pavlov's dog. I said, not sure, but I think it rings a bell. I got arrested today by a police officer who was clueless about basic chemistry. Tried to tell me that my pepper spray was assault. Boobs never badmouth one another. It's bra code. Did you hear about the guy who was arrested for impersonating Sting? He turned himself into the police. You can't be mad at lazy people. They didn't do anything. What do you call Mickey Mouse's unknown grandmother? A Nana Mouse. Why did the car get a flat tire? Because there was a fork in the road. My son was terrified about that quiz on the lunar surface. I can totally understand his fear. Why can't they just let him take it here on Earth? What's a pig's favorite karate move? A pork chop. What car does the millionaire sheep drive? A Lamborghini. My wife said we're not buying produce today in support of the striking farm workers. I replied, but what about the ugly ones? Somebody left an unlabeled box of random parts from IKEA at my door with no instructions. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. At his boss's funeral, a disgruntled employee knelt next to the coffin and whispered, "Who's thinking outside the box now, Gary?" I told my wife a dad joke every day of her pregnancy. Unfortunately, our son was born with severe side defects. What generation was Forrest Gump? Gen A. Why are motorbikes always so sleepy? It's because they're too tired. Why does Tigger always smell so bad? Because he always plays with poo. Why do people conceal knives? I just don't see the point. I went into the office early one morning and switched the M and N keys on everyone's keyboard. Some people will say I'm a monster, the others will say Nomster. Why would one put lipstick on their forehead? Because they need to make up their mind. I got fired from my job as a cemetery journalist for worrying people too much. I only delivered grave news. I was hit in the face with a CD from the 90s. It was Smash Mouth. I just had twin daughters. I named one Kate and the other Replicate. Nobody commented when I made a post about my slippery tires. Guess it never gained traction. To be frank, I would have to change my name. I'm at the airport and there's a woman completely passed out on the baggage carousel. Oh, hang on, she's slowly coming round now. My house bore witness to a great prophecy that my toddler would be in timeout. He denied there was sufficient evidence for punishment, but the writing was on the wall. What do you call an elephant that doesn't matter? Never mind, that's irrelevant. Frogs are so interesting. I once sat by a pond and watched one for 2 hours. It was riveting. What's blue and not very heavy? Light blue. I got a job as a cuckoo in a huge cuckoo clock in my local mall. The pay is not great, but it gets me out of the house. Two detectives knocked on my door and asked me where I'd been between 4 and 5. I replied kindergarten. I think the hotel receptionist was into me. She definitely checked me out when I was leaving. I don't know why dad jokes get a bad rap. Women love them. Otherwise, they'd be called bachelor jokes. I looked out my front window and saw homeless people walking by. I said, I'm going to do something about this problem. I bought curtains. I peaked in high school, and it ruined that Christmas. Before the clock strikes midnight on December 31st, be sure to lift your left leg. That way, you will be starting the new year off on the right foot. How do blind people greet each other? Long time no see. If you forgot the purpose of a boomerang, try not to stress out about it. It'll come back to you eventually. What were the dentist's last words aboard a crashing flight? Brace yourselves. I was reading about dragons and dinosaurs. And there's this idea that, seeing it can breathe fire, a dragon would never explode, but a dino might. My friend took a job making dice for Vegas. It's a job he's willing to die for. I tried to take a picture of the sun setting over a wheat field when I was driving through Kansas last week, but it turned out grainy. People in Chicago try watching football, but they just can't bear watching it anymore. What do Sonic the Hedgehog, Winnie the Pooh, and William the Conqueror have in common? Same middle name. What did the banana say to the boy? Nothing, bananas can't talk. Why don't eggs tell jokes? They might crack up. Did you all know that Chad Kroeger of Nickelback acted in a bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies? He's played Jesus and Innkeeper, but he never made it as a wise man. My wife said she's leaving me for 14 reasons and my infatuation with tennis. I said, that's 15 love. Why did the music producer break up with the metronome? Because it kept ticking them off. Where do werewolves live? In warehouses. I decided to open my electric bill and water bill at the same time. Boy, did I get a shock. Did you hear about the woman who thought period underwear referred to Queen Victoria's knickers? How does a vegetable begin a sermon? Let us pray. I've been thinking a lot lately about the time my old friend introduced me to his kids Buzz, Echo, and Hum. Those names really resonated with me. I need to vent. My dryer has been warming up my garage and it's time we install it properly. What do you call a proficient witch? A hexpert. What kind of income does a vegetable receive? A celery. How is a serial killer like a train station? They both have locomotives. What did the coat say to the hanger? We should hang out sometime. The movie Deja Vu died at the box office. Everyone thought they'd already seen it. Which famous fruit is a musical maestro? Carlos Sultana. What is Mike Tyson's favorite food? Corn. He can eat a whole ear. On one hand, I broke a finger today. On the other hand, I'm fine. If singer Pia Zadora would have married former Senator Trent Lott, her name would have been Pia Lott. A classical physicist breaks up with her quantum mechanic boyfriend. When he asked why, she said, "Every time I try to define the relationship, you collapse into something completely different." What do you call a group of powerlifting school administrators? A strong set of principles. What is the first thing Achilles taught his dog to do? Heel. I have decided to pronounce the letter B in the word subtle, but I'll do it so quietly that almost nobody will notice. Bro, I just used my time machine to travel back to the Bronze Age. Dude, that's epic. I ordered a dozen bees and they delivered 13. I asked about the extra and they said that's a free bee. My father was a professional meat cutter. I'm a real son of a butcher. I told my wife she should do lunges to stay in shape. That was a big step forward. How do you make a Swiss roll? You push them down the mountain. Wolves are feared in only 49 of the 50 states. Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? I can't believe I agreed to a boxing match after Thanksgiving dinner. Now I'm afraid I'll get the stuffing knocked out of me. I knew the marriage was over when I got home and greeted our pet parrot. And he said, "Don't tell her husband." What did the turkey say to the turkey hunter on Thanksgiving Day? Quack, quack. A book just fell on my head. I only have myself to blame. Everyone knows President Macron is terrible at making coffee. It's all over the French press. There's only one 80s celebrity who never once forgot his password. Kenny Loggins. How does a prisoner make a call? On a cell phone. If artists wear Skechers, do linguists wear Converse? How many letters are in the alphabet? 11. I remember the time I ran over the singer from Chumbawamba. Thankfully, he was okay. A lady said she recognized me from the vegan lecture. I'm pretty sure I never met her before. What do you call a mom that makes bad dad jokes? A faux pas. What happened to the chicken that didn't make it across the road? It became a poltergeist. The demolition industry has been experiencing very slow growth over the last 10 years. But sooner or later, it's gonna explode. How does ChatGPT learn to see? OpenAI. Arnold gets invited to a costume party. The invitation says, "Come your favorite musical figure." He answers the RSVP saying, "I'll be Bach." Why can't the fish have babies? She's going through menopause. My wife's dad is a judge, her mom is a detective, her sister is a lawyer, and her brother a bailiff. Nothing special, just your typical set of in-laws. My local Italian joint is crumbling. It's falling to pieces. Just tried a frog-flavored beer. You can really taste the hops. How do you cheer up a blue whale? You tell a killer whale joke. Just like the stairs. Lifts are also always up to something. The crocodile really has problems admitting the truth about itself. It lives in denial. If you want to become a successful DJ, you gotta to start from scratch. Why don't lunar eclipses ever win hide and seek? Because the whole world is watching. What do plumbers and garbage men have in common with economists? The gross domestic product. Did you know, to this day on the Titanic, the swimming pool is still full of water? I told my doctor I broke my arm in 2 places. He told me to stop going to those places. What's the difference between Iron Man and his father? It's a pretty stark contrast if you ask me. Not everything in this world is bad. For example, the sun is a highlight. My parents won't let me go see the new Spinal Tap movie. Apparently it goes to 11, and that's past my curfew. What my dating game is? It's Tetris. I've got several blocks in a row. I could never remember which part of the battery I wasn't supposed to touch. It was terminal. I got a new job at a bar where I stand near the bartender, and every time they make a drink, I have to yell out the name of the drink. I call the shots. I'm writing a book on reverse psychology. You shouldn't read it. Never play poker against a monarch with diarrhea. They always have the royal flush. What time did Sean Connery get to Wimbledon? 10ish. I accidentally rubbed ketchup in my eyes. Now I have hindsight. My wife read a draft of a mystery novel I'm working on. She goes, "I don't get it. In chapter 2 you randomly wrote shadow, 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 shadow. What the hell does that even mean?" I'm like, "Babe, it's called foreshadowing." My brother Philip had his lip removed last week. Now we just call him Phil. Why do divers fall backwards off the boat? Because if they fell forward, they'd smack their face on the deck. Why can't vampires work in the business world? Too many stakeholders. What did Austin Powers say when he saw a wasp nest? Oh, beehive. My brother was explaining to me how in football the quarterback has to respond differently to the nickel defense versus the dime defense. I told him that makes so much sense. If you forget your jacket and you are cold, go stand in a corner. Most corners are 90 degrees. The other day my friend Juan said mucho to me. I said thanks, that means a lot. Why do heavy metal bands refuse to drink Coke? Because it's pop. I asked my trainer at the gym if we could put the treadmill up at an angle instead of using it flat. He said, "Sure, if you're so inclined." My favorite app is Google Maps. I'd be lost without it. A cheeseburger walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve food here." I was in a rush and pushed my buddy to give me an answer on who the leader of the Soviet Union was during World War II. But he was Stalin. What do Titanic and The Sixth Sense have in common? I see dead people. The Ding family had a son whom they named William. He grew up to become a famous architect. In fact, he traveled all over the world, designing massive structures. He was even hired to design entire cities. In fact, skyscrapers were named after him. That's why wherever you go, you will usually find at least one Bill Ding. I love that new song about doors. It's my jam. A guy walks into a bar with his pet alligator and said to the bartender, "Do you serve lawyers here?" "Yep, sure do," replied the bartender. The guy said, "Great. I'll have a Scotch neat and my alligator will have a lawyer." I heard they decided to stop producing pennies. Doesn't make sense. Marriage is really stressful because you have to deal with emotions and lawyers. The barista at the coffee shop I go to told me they didn't have any tea left. I said, "All right, tea then." It's well known that being obese is bad for your health. There's a large body of evidence to back it up. So I got myself a pet termite yesterday. I named him Clint. Clint eats wood. What's the difference between oral and rectal thermometer? The taste. Not sure why the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance says one nation, indivisible. The last time there was a prime number of states was 1912. I asked my North Korean friend what it's like to live in North Korea. He says he can't complain. I finally started my OnlyFans page. We've been going up and down, and back and forth, over whether ceiling fans or oscillating fans are better. Why are frogs so happy? They eat whatever bugs them. Why make a corn maze? If you can make a maze, I just spent $600 on a limo rental but forgot to hire a driver. All that money and nothing to show for it. I used to wonder why the baseball kept getting bigger and bigger. Then it hit me. When my wife claimed that the 90s didn't have good comedy, I forcefully exclaimed, "What are you talking about? Seinfeld was hilarious." She then looked me in the eye and replied, "Now you're just cherry-picking evidence." I've decided to invest all my money in plants in my front yard. It's my hedge fund. I accidentally smeared ketchup on my eyes. And now I have hindsight. What do you call a driver that's never been in an accident? Reckless. My wife keeps asking me to get my job back at the bank. She won't understand that the job doesn't work for me, no matter how much I tell her. I woke up and noticed that all the fingers on my left hand had been replaced with toes. When I went to the doctor about it, he took one look and said, something here is afoot. I need to provide CPR to a clown at the circus the other day. I just inquired on his status and was told that his condition was dire and that he is on life support. A neutron walks into a bar and asks the bartender how much for a bottle of beer. Bartender says, "For you, no charge." What did the pirate with a sore tooth say? Oral be calling the dentist. Why was the big cat disqualified from the race? Because it was a cheetah. Do you practice any dangerous sports? Because I sometimes disagree with my wife. The Count of Monte Cristo? 1. There's one Monte Cristo. I freaked out at my Indian friend's wedding reception when they ran out of bread. But then my wife assured me, I can just call the non-emergency hotline. Which Alanis Morissette song do atoms love the most? Isn't it Ionic? Why shouldn't I draw with my broken pencil? Well, there would be no point to that. A clown held the door open for me. It was a nice gesture. I just spent $300 to hire a limousine and discovered that the fee does not include a driver. I can't believe I've spent all that money and have nothing to show for it. I tried to deliver kittens once. I kept trying to help, but they were all getting tangled up in the letterbox. My therapist has declared that I'm addicted to jigsaws. It's left me feeling puzzled. Why did Dracula pass out on New Year's Eve? There was a countdown. Cannibals will eat anyone, but they get particularly excited over fashion designers. Many of them have great taste. American Red Cross is calling me multiple times a day. They're out for blood. Listening to the news today, it occurred to me that I find something very odd. Do you know what I find odd? Numbers that are not divisible by 2. Do you know a cow got knighted recently? He is now sirloin. Speaking of Russian dolls, every time my son opens one to find another, he starts laughing hysterically. I guess it's an inside joke. Coolio once shared a house with a group of lads who would just watch him throw 2 dice over and over. He was living in a gangster's pair of dice. Fruit farming requires a lot of courage. You really have to grow a pear to make it in this business. What is the detective's name who just lost his house? Sherlock Holmes. Mike Tyson is so religious that he punches people in the face. Did you hear about the magician who was driving down the street? He turned into a parking lot. How did SQL Query meet new people? By joining their tables. If you smell a penny, it only has 1 cent. I stopped hanging out with the ground to hang out with the ceiling. The floor bored me. A dumb beetle walks into a bar and says to a gent at the bar, "Excuse me, is this stool taken?" Dear algebra, please stop asking us to find your ex. She's never coming back, and don't ask why. I was pretty disappointed to learn that my son has an AI girlfriend. He actually told me he was dating a model. A thief has been stealing the wheels off cop cars in town. The police are working tirelessly to catch him. When a fly flies through a fart, do you think to feel the same way we do when we drive past a good barbecue? I'm tired of telling these dentist jokes. I say the truth, no lies. I politely complimented my wife on a quilt that she recently made. I thought she'd be happy, but instead, she gave me a long explanation of why it's a blanket, not a quilt. If you ask me, she's being a little nitpicky. I'm starting to get afraid for the 2025 calendar. Its days are numbered. What do you call a polite man who builds bridges? A civil engineer. What do you call a tasty success? When something works out in your flavor. What happens if you don't cut corners when you're trying to get around? You get a square. I was afraid I'd be unable to perform in the puppet show, but I was able to pull some strings. I finally landed a paid gig to participate in a sleep study. It's my dream job. 5 ants rented an apartment with 5 other ants. Now they're tenants. Me and my wife watched 4 movies back-to-back last night. Thankfully, I was the one facing the TV. Just phoned my doctors for an appointment. He said 10 tomorrow. I said number 1 will be fine. I used to berserk and rageful whenever the auto defrost malfunctioned. Not anymore. It's all water under the fridge. What do cows like to read? Catalogs. My wife warned me not to steal the kitchen utensils, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. When I bailed my friend out from jail, he had a giant lizard clinging to his leg. Apparently, the court ordered him to wear an ankle monitor. Why is Rage Against the Machine such a good workout playlist? Probably because they are a resistance band. One grain says to the other, "You look tired. Have you been getting enough sleep lately?" Barley. What happens when someone slaps you at high frequency? It hurts. Me and my all-male buddies just formed a band that only plays hits from female singers. We're called That's What She Said. When I die, I'm going to get cremated. I end it. I wanted to make sure my daughter would be good at catching fish. I named her Annette. Why are there Pop-Tarts but not Mom-Tarts? Because of the patriarchy. What do you get if you cross an apple with a shellfish? A crab apple. What do fish believe in? Cod. How do you get a penguin to poop its pants? You have to put them in pants. What do cows that have recently given birth and people who died during the Irish potato famine have in common? They both lactators. Two cannibals were eating a clown. One says to the other, "This tastes funny." Two parrots are sitting on a perch. One turns to the other and says, "Do you smell fish?" What do you call the mirror aisle at Walmart? Self-checkout. I went to the aquarium this weekend, but I didn't stay long. There's something fishy about that place. What flowers give the best kisses? Tulips. Being lactose intolerant, I really shouldn't eat ice cream, but I really like it. The resulting flatulence is horrible, but when the kids complain, I just tell them it's my derriere. I got fired from my job for asking customers if they would prefer smoking or non-smoking. Apparently, the proper terms are cremation or burial. I just bought the Snow White Lego set second-hand, but it only had 6 dwarves. Not happy. How do you weigh a millennial? In Instagrams. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong is Murphy's Law, but have you heard of Cole's Law? It's thinly sliced cabbage and mayonnaise. My wife has reached an age where she takes lots of little breaks throughout the day. I call it mini pause. Why don't programmers like nature? Because it has too many bugs. What's a math teacher's favorite place to go on vacation? Times Square. Parking close by felt impossible today. I am at my wit's end. Believe me when I say that I went through a lot today. Did you hear about the new Starsky show? It went off without a hutch. What's a cow's favorite nighttime activity? Stargazing. What music do people in the Vatican listen to? Pope music. To be frank, I'd have to have a different name. I tried to repair the road and made it worse. I don't know what I expected. It was my own asphalt. Why do scuba divers fall backwards into the water? Because if they fell forwards, they'd land in the boat. You are on a horse riding full gallop. Next to you is a giraffe at full gallop, and behind you is a lion on your tail. What do? Get off the carousel. Damn it, I just burnt my Hawaiian pizza. Maybe I should have cooked it on aloha temperature. My girlfriend borrowed $100 from me. After 3 years, when we separated, she returned exactly $100. I lost interest in that relationship. What has 5 toes and isn't your foot? My foot. What do chicken use to solve complex equations? An eggshell sheet. What goes 99 bonk, 99 bonk, 99 bonk? A centipede with a wooden leg. If we're being honest here, then we obviously aren't politicians. After studying under one of the greatest artists of our time, I cut off his arm and duct taped it to the wall. It's my masterpiece. Have you ever heard of really, really tall lollipops? They're so long suckers. What's the worst part of ordering Peking duck? Getting the bill. My therapist says I'm always fixating on revenge. We'll see about that. What animal has the most unpleasant smell? Birds. They smell foul. Which number used all the tissues? A 2. I've always found the way lumberjacks speak to be fascinating. They have such well-developed accents. Had to return my defective string instrument. I was served a shoddy limoncello. You know what? Cottage cheese isn't really a cheese. It's just occurred to me. How did the barber win the race? He knew a shortcut. Why is it so difficult to date a judge? It takes supreme courting. I had a finger amputated today. I asked my doctor if I could still write with that hand. He said, well, I wouldn't count on it. Why do bananas wear sunscreen? Because they peel easily. I walked into a hardware store and asked the assistant, hey, have you got any air cons? Certainly, he replied, air pollution can cause health problems. How much money should I invest in the stock market now to turn it into $1 million? $2 million. Everyone told Beethoven he'd never make it as a composer. But did he listen? Pooping is completely exhausting. It really takes a lot out of me. What do you call a monk who walks everywhere in bare feet, has poor bone density and really bad breath? A supercalloused fragile mystic hexed by halitosis. Scientists grew human vocal cords in a petri dish. The results speak for themselves. Why is the number 1 affair to fight the number 3? Because it is 3-to-1 odds in his favor. My friend was treated poorly at work, so I handed them a full ice cube tray. Confused, they asked, "What's this?" "Justice," I responded. I used to have a job making holes. It was boring. My uncle runs a clinic inside a hotel in Spain. He comes out late at night to ring people's doorbells because nobody suspects the Spanish physician. First they found the Trix rabbit dead. Next came Captain Crunch. And now Snap, Crackle, and Pop have gone missing. I think there may be a serial killer on the loose. What a politician's favorite instrument? A lyre. I lost my one job. I got 3 hungry kids. In 5 days I'm getting laid off and rent is due in 7. The odds are against me. What do you call a camel without humps? Humphrey. My wife asked me, is it just me or the cat is getting fat? Apparently, it's just you was not the right answer. What do you call a European subregion full of gossip and rumors? Scandinavia. What time is it when an elephant sits on your clock? Time to get another clock. I applied for a job at NASA, but they didn't have any space. What kind of motorcycles do chefs prefer? Mostly Yamahas and Kawasaki's. What do you call a woman standing in the middle of a tennis court? A net. What do you call a mouse that stands on two legs? Mickey Mouse. What do you call a duck that stands on two legs? Any duck. What do you call a Viking who doesn't like company? Leave him alone. Did you know that you can make a USB-C cable longer by adding a LED at one end? Because then it will reach from sea to shining sea. What was the name of the royal tile installer? Ceramic. I've got a bizarre problem with my vending machine. It's giving away free drinks to everyone. I can't figure out why. It makes no sense. My local weatherman just died. He was 82, but he felt like 75. Why do vegetables and fruit make you go to the bathroom? Because they are produce. Have you ever noticed? When you give someone a hug, you're always holding back. I don't trust elevators. They always let you down. I recently went back to work at the vineyard I grew up on, where they make wine the old-fashioned way. It's my old stomping grounds. I once did a theatrical performance about puns. It was really just a play on words. Why do punchlines sometimes come before jokes? Because only drunk people would consider such jokes funny. Told my wife I saw a wolf on the way into work today. She asked where. I said no, it was just the regular kind. I told my suitcase I had to cancel my vacation, and now I'm dealing with the emotional baggage. Someone asked me what the 9th letter of the alphabet was. It was a complete guess, but I was right. What do you call Wolverine cheating somebody? A Comic Con. My wife tells me I have two major faults. I don't listen, and something else. My dad glued a toy parking garage to one of his hats and started wearing it around the house. Now, whenever we ask him for anything, he says, "Sorry, I can't help. I've got a lot on my mind." What do Kermit the Frog, John the Baptist, and Vlad the Impaler have in common? Same middle name. My life is in ruins. But that's just how life is, if you study archaeology. I heard that in Athens, nobody wakes up before noon. I guess dawn is tough on Greece. Why shouldn't children be exposed to classical music? They have too much sax and violins. I was running behind to my appointment at the mortuary. Luckily, they're used to people being late. Critics say Botox is too expensive, but I spoke to 50 people who paid for the treatment, and none of them looked surprised. What type of dog tells time? A watchdog. Someone keeps sending me flowers with the tops cut off. I think I'm being stalked. My wife will not go to karaoke with me. I have to duet alone. What happens when death makes a mistake? He has to face the repercussions. Which word becomes shorter if you add 2 letters? Short. I surprised my wife this morning by covering myself with baby oil and glitter. She says I never glisten. A gambler leaves for the horses. His wife asks him, "Will you finally win tonight?" I try my bets. Did you hear about the vampire who went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before biting his victims on the neck? They called him Count Bacular. When I was a kid, my mother told me I could be anyone I wanted to be. Turns out identity theft is a crime. Have you heard of a band called Cellophane? They mostly rap. This morning Siri said, "Don't call me Shirley." I accidentally left my phone in airplane mode. My girlfriend said I have no sense of direction. So I pack my things and write. What do you call a large spoon made for jelly? A marmaladle. How do libraries manage to stock so many books? It's self-explanatory. What's the opposite of irony? Wrinkly. The government stopped making the penny. So you are telling me the government doesn't make sense? This 50-year-old man and his new younger wife were having trouble finding someone to help deliver their first child together. It was a midwife crisis. My wife hates playing chess with me. She says she can't focus. She just wants to mate. Someone once offered me a free radio, but the volume was permanently stuck on max. I thought, I can't turn that down. One of the biggest fights Han Solo and Princess Leia got in was when Han insisted he wanted to name their baby boy Guitar. I'm shocked when people learn. I'm not a good electrician. Victoria's Secret and Smith & Wesson are merging. The new company is called Titty Titty Bang Bang. Ever heard of the guy who made a statue of the first president out of wood? George Washington Carver. Receiving a huge shock of static electricity changed my life. Ever since I've been much more grounded. Why did the dog get all A's on his report card? Because he was the teacher's pet. If there was a pill to cure procrastination, I'd probably take it tomorrow. What do you call a sleeping bull? A bulldozer. My dad was a big fan of the band Europe. On his deathbed, his last words were 3, 2, 1. It was the final countdown. I couldn't figure out why I don't like elevator music. Then it hit me, it's too uplifting. I heard Trump was in the hospital with stomach problems. They're saying he couldn't stop pudding. My buddy has a thing for destroying cubes. He's a blockbuster. How do geologists date rocks? They take them out to dinner and a movie. What do you call a pessimistic horse? A naysayer. Instead of all this war, let's make a plan to deliver vegetables to those in need. Then we'll have world peace. What's the difference between Iron Man and Iron Woman? One's a superhero and the other a simple command. My buddy dared me to do the chicken dance in a company meeting. I started, panicked, and ran for the exit. Guess you could say I chickened out. What do you call a non-practicing Muslim dictator? Infidel Castro. What does James Bond do for a little extra cash? The occasional odd job. What has 75 balls and drives old women crazy? Bingo. Despite my immaculate CV, I didn't get the job. I needed more range to be a calligrapher. Having weight issues? Call Overeaters Anonymous. The phone number is 1-888-888-8888. I received a wedding invitation. In the end was printed, your presence itself is a gift. We don't want any gifts at the wedding. What an odd way of not inviting me. I entered a pun competition. I entered around 10 puns thinking one of them is bound to win. But no pun intended. FedEx founder Frederick Wallace Smith has died. His funeral arrives tomorrow between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. "100 people are standing single file. A professional boxer goes down the row and hits each one with a jab. That's the punchline. I relabeled all the jars on my wife's spices rack. I'm not in trouble yet, but the time is cumin. What do you call a gringo who eats tacos de lengua? Bilingual. A guy was complaining for having no gains. I said, you have to wait for it. My toddler drew on the walls with a marker. I told him he's in deep doodle. Police have solved the mystery of the door handle. It was an open and shut case. I didn't do well at school. I failed math so many times, I can't even count. What do you get when you tell a dad joke to the creator of The Simpsons? Matt groaning. What did Spock find in the toilet? The captain's log. A gamma ray visits a psychologist. Psychologist asks him, "Why are you here?" "You wouldn't believe what I've been through." I told my wife she should embrace her mistakes. She hugged the mailman. My flatmate at university would only eat food cooked by her Italian boyfriend. We used to say, the only boy who could ever feed her was the son of a pizza man. Get ready for more laughs and groans following this short break. My therapist said I should rename my kids $1.99 and $2.99 because of my anger issues. I'm like, man, those are hard prices to beat. Why haven't aliens visited our solar system? They looked at the reviews and saw it only had 1 star. How does an ancient Mesopotamian write reports? He summarizes. I told my doctor it burns really bad when I pee. He said that's perfectly normal. I said, oh, thank goodness. He said, well, perfectly normal when you have chlamydia. Why can't dinosaurs clap their hands? They're extinct. Why couldn't the couple respond right away when looking at wedding venues? They were engaged. What's the point of a pyramid? It's the bit at the very top. Did you know elevators use a single ding to signal going up and a double ding to signal going down, for people who are blind or visually impaired know which direction the car is heading? You learn something new every day. Studies show that cows produce more milk when farmers talk to them. It's a case of in one ear and out the other. Two carrots were crossing the road and one of them got hit by a car. The doctor said I have good news and bad news. The good news is, your friend is alive. The bad news is he's always going to be a vegetable. Did you hear about the guys that tried to rob a blood bank? Yeah, they were caught red-handed. Why do crabs never volunteer? Because they're shellfish. Why doesn't the sun need to go to university? Because it has 27 million degrees. Took my kid bowling, but he didn't roll very well. What did the football coach say to the broken vending machine? Give me my quarterback. Where did the archaeologist find a 2,000-year-old oil stain? Ancient Greece. I'm so upset. My barber said he can't cut my hair any longer. He can only cut it shorter. I joined a new gym today, and the girl at the desk asked if I wanted to see a personal trainer. I told her I would rather see an impersonal trainer. What do you call it when you have rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Thrice. Why was the math book sad? It was full of problems. What's another way to say, turn Casper over to us, or die? Give up the ghost, or give up the ghost. I'll tell you what. Nothing tops a plain hot dog. I told a bad joke to a group of chemists. There was no reaction. My family thinks I love rewatching The Hunt for Red October because I'm a huge Cold War nerd. Truth is, I do it for the subplot. There was a kidnapping in our neighborhood the other day, but it all worked out fine. The kid woke up. We have a new restaurant called No Foods. It only serves ambience. I have said it before and now I am gonna say it again. It again. Running in front of a car makes you tired, but running behind it makes you exhausted. Why did I bring a ladder to my in-laws' house? Because they always expect me to rise to the occasion. Why were the detectives unsuccessful in London? Because they could not find leads. Which rapper is in the best shape? Cardio. What type of sneakers does a chicken wear? Reebok. Farmer did not like the joke I made about the smell when milking the cows. I guess they are sensitive about their dairy air. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't come back? A stick. Why is it called a dad joke? It's not apparent. If Apple owned a dance venue, do you think they'd call it the Macarena? Dude said if his wife didn't hurry up off the toilet, he'd have to go boy band. NSYNC. My daughter is reading a book by J.R.R. Tolkien. I told her that reading is a good habit to have. What do you call the person who points out fires? The fire extinguisher. My friends are betting who can consume the most types of amphetamine, starting with the weakest. I was late to the competition, but I'm up to speed now. It's very inappropriate to tell a dad joke when you're not a dad. It's a faux pas. I asked my butcher for a cow with no legs. He gave me ground beef. What would a man most likely get if he walked into a bar? A concussion. The Italian ladies love giant robots. It makes their day. What did the clock ask the watch? How are you doing? Why was salmon expelled from the school of fishes? He smoked. People with red hair are very gentle. They do everything gingerly. What do you call a car that's gone mad? Deranged rover. Why did LeBron leave Miami? He didn't like the heat. Did you hear about the Thulu Worshipper movie? It's a cult classic. I have a twin brother living in Australia. We were separated at Perth. My family used to have a bunch of Holsteins, but my father always thought they were Angus. I got tired of my pop calling the cattle black. What was the worst slogan ever for a Canadian territory? Nunavut matters. My phone just fell down a flight of stairs. It's okay though, it was in my pocket. I heard if you boil a lot of funny bones, it makes great laughingstock. I couldn't choose what to call the new creative writing class at the local prison, so decided on pros and cons. I was sitting on the toilet, sleepy, angry, annoyed, and about to be late to work. I thought to myself, I don't have time for this sh*t. You know how in some sports they toss the ball to the fans after a victory? You're not supposed to do that in bowling, I know that now. Did you hear about the 80-year-old footballer who scored 3 goals? He's Jerry Hat Trick. Why couldn't the refrigerator hang out with the freezer? Because he wasn't cool enough. Did you know there's a group of young women who keep evil at bay by making delicious bite-sized baked treats? They're the Cake Pop Demon Hunters. What does a petroleum engineer take to stay healthy? Vitamins. I know a bunch of good jokes about umbrellas, but they usually go over people's heads. A friend was visiting a family member at the psychiatric hospital and was asked to leave for being insensitive. Apparently, the corridor leading to the patient's rooms is called a hallway, not a psychopath. What would you call a period in history where all of the oceans have dried up? A long time, no sea. How do watermelons get so much water in them? You plant them in the spring. I've been having deja vu lately, but also deja vu. What's the best way to advertise skydiving? Drop flyers from a plane. My daughter always sneaks in a couple capital letters where they don't belong. She's very shifty. I tried to child-proof my house, but the kids keep getting back in. There's a study that shows that cats actually meow louder and more often when greeting males versus females, because even cats know that men don't listen. What laundry-related topic could a woman discuss to make sure men stay away from her? Detergents. Why do time travelers always cover their food? Because time flies. Why did the crocodile run his mile so fast? He had Gatorade. I have an irrational fear of giants. It's called phi-phobia. There's a rumor floating around Washington, D.C. that Trump is in the hospital from stress over one of his foreign policy tussles. Is it true, though? I went to a Christmas party and there was no cheese and salami with olives and crackers. I will be reporting them to my local charcuterie board. I went to visit my childhood home, but the people who lived there wouldn't let me in. My parents are the worst. How many boomers does it take to change a light bulb? Actually, none. They'll just tell you how bright it used to be back in their day. Somebody told me that pronouncing my B's like a V made me sound like a Russian. I said Soviet. How much does a pirate pay for his corn? A buccaneer. How did the blind man's wife get revenge on him? She left the plunger in the toilet. Whom would you call if an infestation of insects was holding you hostage? A SWAT team. Who does Beyoncé call when she needs her roof repaired? All the shingle ladies, all the shingle ladies. My new watch stopped working. Now it's absolutely timeless. You can't make jokes about geography. There's Norway. Out of all the memes this year, I really think 6, 7, 8. What do you call an alligator who's a renegade? A Gatorade. The unit that heats up my house is very antagonistic. It's a space hater. Did you hear about the storm cloud that won the precipitation gold medal last year? It was the reigning champion. The teacher asked me to name an L word. I said literal. She said, okay, can you use literal in a sentence? I said, yes, I can. Why are sentences so cranky? They always have their period. What would Julius do if he saw an attractive woman? Caesar. I kept trying to tell my friend I was swimming in a lake, but he kept telling me I was swimming in the largest river in Egypt. Safe to say I was in denial. Why do chess players want Eastern European brides? Because they're looking for a checkmate. A giraffe walked into a bar. Barman looks up and says, "Sorry, mate, we don't serve Heineken here." Some people wake up feeling like $1 million. I wake up feeling like insufficient funds. What do you call a Shetland pony with a cold? A little horse. I bought a vinyl yesterday called Sounds Wasps Make. When I got home and played it, I said to myself, this doesn't sound anything like wasp sounds. Then I realized I was playing the B-side. What do you call a wasp who gets kicked out of a church service full of bees? A non-believer. I thought the dryer was shrinking my clothes. Turns out it was just the refrigerator. Every morning I announce to my family that I'm going jogging, but then I don't go. It's a running joke. The police knocked on my door to tell me that my dogs were chasing people on their bikes. Don't be ridiculous, I said. My dogs can't ride bikes. A genie granted me one wish, so I wish to be happy. Now I live with 6 dwarves and work down a mine. Where do you find rare exotic spiders for sale? In the dark web. I'm thinking about dropping out of clown college. I've just been juggling too many things lately. Daughter's boyfriend introduced himself to me. He said, "Hi sir, I'm David, nice to meet you." He put out his hand and I said, "David, are you nervous?" He said no, so I grabbed his hand, looked him in the eyes and said, "Then why are you shaking?" I asked the passenger next to me if they'd switch seats since I was flying with my family. They declined. So now I'm sitting with my family. Have you guys ever seen that old Joe Pesci movie about trigonometry? It's called My Cosine Vinny. The world stockpile of cocaine just got bombed by anti-drug agencies. DEA struck the final blow. Running out of water in a desert is the worst case scenario. Why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. I just helped my neighbor bury a rolled up carpet in the woods. Her husband was out of town, or else he would have helped. What do you call a muscular pumpkin? A jack-o'-lantern. I like writing on insects. I'm good at coming up with things on the fly. You can joke with guinea pigs, but don't roast them. A horse groomer was worried about being laid off. I told him, "Don't worry about it. You have stable income." When you think about it, Lance Armstrong was a drug peddler. I'm in my 60s and have only ever dated 20-year-olds. Got married right out of college and haven't dated since. A wise friend once told me before mountain climbing, it's all fun and games until you reach the top. Then, it's all downhill from there. Why do cows love to go to New York? To see the Broadway musicals. I told my shadow we needed space. It's been following me ever since. What do you call a vampire with fresh ink? Nosferatu. My lunchmate wanted to trade his pasta for my tater tots. "Penny for your tots?" he asked. I struggled uploading holiday album pics too the other day. It's like they say, the second album is always the hardest. I once got dumped by a tennis player. Love meant nothing to them. Why the next James Bond should be a woman? The next Bond should be a woman. Can you imagine? Crazy car scenes with spectacular crashes, explosions, and all of that while she's parking. What's a Jawa's favorite vegetable? Zucchini. Why doesn't the sun go to college? Because it already has millions of degrees. My wife told me she had a terrifying experience last night. She was alone in the house having a bath when all of a sudden, she felt a tap on her shoulder. During a bicycle race, I wrecked and the biker behind me ran me over and kept going. I didn't continue the race. I was just too tired. What's the difference between a well-dressed man and a tired dog? A well-dressed man wears a suit, a tired dog just pants. Where does Superman buy groceries? In a supermarket. A policeman stopped me the other night. He tapped on the window of my car and says, "Would you please blow into this bag, sir?" I said, "What for, officer?" He said, "My chips are too hot." A man was arrested for stealing helium balloons. Police held him for a while, then let him go. I got fired from the clock factory. After all the extra hours I put in? I married my wife for her looks, but not the ones I've been getting lately. E-flat walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, but we don't serve minors." Did you hear about the snowman who got upset when the sun came out? He had a total meltdown. What happens when you fart on a pancake? It becomes a flapjack. Which profession is always going to leave you broke? Baking, they always need dough. Went to a restaurant for my friend's birthday party. They made it easy to take the leftovers home. It was a piece of cake. I would make jokes about birds, but I feel pigeonholed. I got fired from my job because I kept asking my customer whether they would prefer smoking or non-smoking. Apparently, the correct terms are cremation and burial. What's the heaviest soup in the world? Wonton soup. I hired 2 guys to stand in my living room and hold up my drapes. Their names are Kurt and Rod. Two artists had a fight. It ended in a draw. Bono and The Edge walk into a bar. The bartender looks up and says, "Oh no, not you two again." Somalia might be famous for the pirates, but I always think of its musical instruments. That's where you find the Horn of Africa. I have a condition where I feel the need to steal library books. I should probably get that checked out. There was a plane crash. Thankfully, every single person on the plane survived. All the married people died. I read that cows kill more people than sharks. I didn't know cows killed sharks. Donald Trump has signed an order banning the sale of shredded cheese. He wants to make America great again. I'll stop at nothing to avoid using negative numbers. I hate having to buy bait for my favorite sport. For my birthday, my wife bought me a 3-month subscription box for starting a worm farm. So I unwrapped and opened my first box. It was full of dirt. Turned out it was a phishing scam. How does candy laugh? It snickers. What tree can fit in your hand? A palm tree. What's the next promotion for a librarian? Bookkeeper. I was upset when my neighbor put a fence around his swimming pool. But then I got over it. My wife said she wants a divorce, said she's had enough of my obsession with astronomy. I said to her, "What planet are you on?" Which classical composers are best at the grocery store? Chopin, Liszt. Did you hear about Schrödinger's frog? When the veterinarian told him that it had croaked, Schrödinger didn't know if it was dead or alive. Bad day at work today. I cut 2 fingers off my hand. I asked the doctor if I would still be able to write with it. He said probably, but I wouldn't count on it. What pop star is also a sheep farmer? Ed Sheeran. Why was the sapling arrested? Tree sun. What do you call a disgusting protest? Revolting. You're a hipster if you burn your tongue on a hot drink. You drank it before it was cool. When Satanists do good things, are they deceived by God? We should all be clothed in public at all times. After all, it's the bare minimum decency. My wife claims I quote Celine Dion way too much, but I have no recollection of that. But it's all coming back to me now. My new pony always speaks to me in the softest voice. I think he might be a little hoarse. Why did the dolphins elect a dictator? They wanted to serve a greater purpose. I was meant to get some sewing thread for the wife. Instead, I spent the afternoon in the pub. I was gone, but not for cotton. When I was young, I was kidnapped by a mime. He did unspeakable things to me. What did the onion say when he crashed into the avocado? Holy guacamole. Someone has just sold me a bottle of odorless perfume. It doesn't make any sense. What do you call a Chinese guy holding a camera? Filming. What's got a trunk, 4 legs and lots of keys? A piano stuck up a tree. What do you call constipation in Germany? Far from pooping. Respect people with glasses. They paid a lot of money to be able to see you. To whoever invented the urinal, I can't use it for crap. There's Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. Which are Forrest Gump's people? Gen A. Why couldn't the frog drive the car? Because it got towed. My son got a new oversized t-shirt. I said the only way that's a medium is if it can talk to ghosts. My wife asked if I've seen the dog bowl. I said I didn't even know he could. Heard a knock at the door, opened it to see a gorgeous basin just sitting there, dripping confidence. It looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Wisdom flows only when you unclog your pride." I thought to myself, let that sink in. What is an introvert's least favorite band? Crowded House. Dad jokes are like planes. Not every one of them is going to land. I heard the Doritos opened their first ranch in Boston. People that have gone have already told me it's a cool ranch. I tried to walk like an Egyptian. And now I need to see a chiropractor. Have you ever been camping in a blizzard before? It's snow intense. This morning my son asked, "Dad, how come I wasn't named after you?" I said, "Because after you would be a stupid name." First, I had one slice, then I had another, until it was all gone. And that's just a life of pie. How is an Asian Dwayne Johnson called? The Wok. I thought Friday was a sad day. Turns out the next day was a Saturday. What do you call an elf who quit Santa's workshop to go motorcycling? A rebel without a clause. Are Hawaiians allowed loud laughter? Or only aloha? I went to a tiny zoo that just had this one dog. It was a Shih Tzu. What's the difference between a banjo and a hand grenade? Nothing. By the time you hear it, it's too late. What does an agnostic, dyslexic, insomniac do? Stays up all night and wonders if there really is a dog. Did you hear about the giant that had diarrhea? You must have, it's all over town. I started building and selling boats out of my attic. Sales are through the roof. What's the phone number for a taco emergency? 911. Did you hear about the miracle of the blind carpenter? He picked up his hammer and saw. What's a Christmas tree's favorite candy? Ornaments. Why did the cow become an astronaut? To see the Milky Way. What did the volcano say about his wife? I love her very much. What do you mean, Count Dracula? There's only the one. Why do the numbers 1 through 12 work the hardest? They're always on the clock. Why was the anti-vaxxer's child crying? It was having a midlife crisis. Gandhi, as we know, walked barefoot most of his life, which produced large calluses on his feet. He also ate very little, which made him frail. His odd diet also gave him very bad breath. This made him a super calloused fragile mystic hexed by halitosis. What do you call a teenager who refuses to grow up? Constantine. I just discovered that divorce is exactly like algebra. You look at your ex and think why. What's a priest's favorite kitchen appliance? A deep fryer. How do you stop an elephant from charging? Take away his credit cards. People who claim they are gluten intolerant are really going against the grain. A prisoner walks into a bar. What does he get? A concussion. I was comparing my bucket list with a friend's. Turns out mine pales by comparison. A wise doctor once wrote, "Not sure honestly." A male sheep walks into a restaurant and is scared by the main chef screaming at everyone. Ramsay's kitchen nightmares. Kelvin and Celsius had a job interview, but only one of them got the job. It was Celsius because he had a degree. Remember, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 3 lefts do. I once dated a girl who was actually a ghost. I had my suspicions the moment she walked through the door. I only date electricians because they are the only ones who know how to turn me on. I hate when people call me average. That's just mean. I don't trust people when they sleep. They tend to lie a lot. You know what seems odd to me? Numbers that aren't divisible by 2. Why shouldn't you order a 6 from Amazon? It's not Prime. Thinking of starting a hip clothing and cool accessories store just for men over 50. I'm calling it Forever 41. I went to the danger zone, and all I got was this lousy P-51 Mustang. If Farmer A sells apples and Farmer B sells bananas, what does Farmer C sell? Medicine. Did you hear they arrested the devil? Yeah, they got him on possession. My bald friend still owns a comb. He can't part with it. What height is ideal for a runner? 2 feet. Today, I finally got justice against the remote control that attacked me. It was charged with battery. Why shouldn't you make broth by yourself? Because you need a brother. Watching my daughter place her food neatly on both sides of her plate, I leaned over and said, "That's a well-balanced diet." I saw a guy who was arrested for dressing up as Sting. It's illegal to impersonate the police. I've legally changed my name to Edward. It's quite edifying. Why was the belt sentenced to prison? Because it held up a pair of pants. Musical instruments come in handy when I go fishing. Today I'm fishing for Spanish mackerel, so I'm taking my castanets. My wife thinks it is weird that I stare through the window during a heavy rainstorm. It would be a lot less weird if she would just let me in. What do you call a Jedi who's freaking out? Anakin Skywalker. My wife and I were cuddling last night when she said, "Show me a good time." So I stepped outside and ran an 11-second 100-meter sprint. Fire at will. But he's not here. A man stole herbs from a shop. He's doing time in prison. A local daycare center advertised that they provide supervision for kids, so I've been sending my daughter there for the past year. But after all that time, she still only has regular vision. Gideon Sundback invented the zipper in 1906, which makes him Lord of the Flies. I finally watched K-pop Demon Hunters with my daughter, and I have to say, I was impressed by the size of their airplane. It's quite roomy. What's the point of a pyramid? Right on the top, I think. The best thing about losing your short-term memory is, what's for dinner? Where do boats go when they're sick? To the dock. I'm Montgomery Jones. We're on a mission to spread the laughs and groans far and wide, so please do us a favor and share just one of these jokes with your family and friends today. Thanks. Looking for more dad joke humor to share? Then subscribe to our new weekly email newsletter. It's our weekly roundup of the best dad jokes, memes, and humor for you to enjoy. Spread the laughs and groans and sign up today. Check the sign up link in the show notes page or visit dailydadjokespodcast.com. The Daily Dad Jokes Podcast is produced by Classic Studios. See the show notes page for social media links and joke credits. This show was recorded in front of a canned studio audience.